Hello students, welcome to the online learning session for business studies. This is our lecture 2 in respect of chapter 3, that is business environment. In today's discussion, the topics that we are going to discuss is about the meaning, features and impact of demonetization. We will be learning about the new economic policy of 1991 and the concept of liberalization, privatization and globalization. But before we start our discussion, let's have a quick recap of the content that we discussed in lecture 1. As lecture 1 was our introductory class for this chapter, we learned about the meaning, features and importance of business environment. Along with that, we learned about the components, or you can say about the dimensions of business environment, isn't it? So quickly, let us start our discussion for today. The first topic, as you all can see, is about demonetization. I hope all of you would remember about demonetization. It happened on 8th of November 2016, right? And what did actually happen? All the currency of 500 and 1000 rupees, they were no longer a valid tender in India. Now what is valid tender or legal tender means? Actually, legal tender is a currency which cannot be refused as a method of payment. Clear? So if I take out a 10 rupee note and I say that yes, this is a legal tender, what does that mean? It means that if I use that 10 rupee note for making a payment anywhere, no one can refuse me to sell any goods. Clear? 500 and 1000 rupee notes, after demonetization, they were no longer legal tender. That means people could not buy or sell goods using those notes. Clear? Now let us understand the definition. The first line says it is a process of stripping a currency unit of its status as a legal tender. Now stripping means removing. So what is demonetization? Demonetization is removing a currency from being a legal tender. That means after demonetization, that particular currency will no longer be a legal tender. Clear? In India, when it happened, I already discussed with you, 8th November 2016, with immediate effect. That time it was allowed that you can use those 500 and 1000 rupee notes in spite of them being no longer a legal tender. It could be used at the petrol pumps. Clear? That means if you went to purchase petrol for your two-wheeler or four-wheeler, you could use those 500 and 1000 rupee notes. What I mean to say is it was done with the immediate effect, but few relaxations were given for some specified purposes. Okay, now let's see what are the features. First one says the tax administration measure. Now people had to declare their cash holdings to get it exchanged from bank. Now what happened? People actually had few 500 rupee notes and 1000 rupee notes maybe at their home. Okay, now how to get it exchanged? Because if I don't get them exchanged, they will be nothing more than a piece of paper. So after the demonetization was announced, the main aim of people was to get their money exchanged. Right, this was a method of tax administration. Why? Because for those people who had black money with them, or you can say unaccounted wealth, or you can say the money on which tax is not paid, that is actually black money. So people who had black money, they had to get it exchanged, otherwise that whole money would go in waste, isn't it? So people having black money had to pay penalties. That was a tax administration. Penalties means tax. They paid huge taxes, they paid penalties, and after that their black money was converted into white. Clear? So demonetization was used as a tax administrative corrective measures. Why? Because those people who had lots and lots of money, black money especially, with themselves, earlier they did not pay any tax to it. So when demonetization was announced, those money at their homes or those money in their bank lockers, that actually became what? That actually became invalid. It carried no meaning, it carried no value in the real life. So what the businessmen or what the normal people thought, they thought that, array, I have so much money with me, now what to do with this, because it is nothing more than a piece of paper now. So what they did, they actually revealed their total wealth, they paid the penalties, they paid the taxes, and somehow got it converted into white money. So that was the first feature of demonetization, that tax was administered on the people who did not actually pay taxes. Clear? Okay, next point. No tolerance on tax evasions. So demonetization, after announcing demonetization, it was the government who announced or who indicated, gave a hint that if you are into a habit of tax evasion, then you won't be spared anymore. Now understand what is tax evasion. Tax evasion is actually the non-payment of taxes by showing any false income. Suppose my income is 10 crore, but I show or I tell the tax department people that my income is only 1 crore. So I pay income only on 1 crore. Clear? And the rest 9 crore that I save, I do not pay taxes on it. Clear? So that is actually somewhat called as tax evasion. I repeat, what is tax evasion? It is the non-payment of taxes by showing a wrong income. Clear? Because if I had told my income to be 10 crore, I would have to pay a higher tax, isn't it? So to pay less tax, what did I do? I revealed my income only to be less. So government said that, okay, this is the last chance we are giving to you. After this, if you are found into tax evasions, you won't be spared. Clear? And the last point says mobilization of savings. What is mobilization of savings? See, earlier, before demonetization, what happened? Many people had huge cash in their homes. Clear? And was that cash adding any benefit to the economy? No, it was simply kept at their homes, simply kept somewhere without adding anything to the economy, right? But after demonetization, what happened? Those cash, that means those currency of 500 or 1000 rupee notes, were they carrying any value? No, they were not carrying any value. They were nothing more than a piece of paper. So what did the businessman think? That I need to get this particular cash exchanged. So what did they do? They took out those cash from their bank lockers or from their houses, and this is how this money came out from these hidden sources and got into the financial system. How did it got into the financial system? I told you na, they will pay some taxes, they will pay some penalties, and then black will be converted into white. And once it becomes white money, that means it becomes the part of the financial system. So just imagine all those cashes which was with you. Suppose you had hidden 50 lakh rupees, I had hidden 1 lakh crore. So after demonetization, I took out 1 crore from my home. Okay, I went to the bank, I paid all those penalties and got it exchanged. Now think from the bank's viewpoint. Bank is getting so much money from different sources, isn't it? So now the cash capacity of the bank has also increased, and also as because it was having huge amount of cash with it, the loan giving facility or the loan giving capacity of the banks also increased. They could offer loans comparatively easy after demonetization. Clear to you? Why? Because there was a large inflow of cash from various sources. So the loans could be offered easily. Why? Because there was a large inflow of cash from the various sources, from the black money which was stuck at different people's houses or different bank lockers, they actually came out and started flowing in the economy. Clear to you? So that is about the features. Now let's look into the impact of demonetization. What impact did demonetization actually have? The first one, the interest rates or the money rates. There was a decline in the cash transactions. Why? Because the 500 and 1000 rupee notes, they constituted about more than 80% of the India's total currency. So you understand that if such a high percentage of currency notes becomes invalid for a particular time, then will the people have enough cash in their hands? Maximum how much notes they can have? 10 rupee, 20 rupee, 50 rupee and 100 rupee, isn't it? So if you think, then the maximum part of the currency, that is the 500 and 1000 rupee notes, they were gone, they were no longer valid. So the actual cash in the hands of the people were very less, and this led to a decline in the cash transactions. People did not have the valid cash much. They had 150, 20 and 10 with them. Just imagine how much 10 rupee notes or how much 20 rupee notes or how much 50 and 100 rupee notes will a normal people have? Not much. So there was a decline in the cash transactions. They did not have cash only, then what cash transactions they will do? Clear? Bank deposits increased. Why? I told you, people took out their money and went it to get exchanged. Clear? And the last one, increased in the financial savings. As because people got their money exchanged in the banks, the money actually started flowing in the economy, resulting in the increase in financial savings. Clear? Next one, private wealth. Now what about private wealth? See, private wealth declined since some high demonetized notes were not returned and real estate prices fell. Okay, so what can you understand? The private wealth of the people, it actually had gone down. Public sector wealth, it had no effect, because public sector is what? Public sector is actually the government sector. So it will have a very negligible or no effect on the government sector. Clear? Digitalization. Now people, as because they had less amount of cash in their hands, what did they do? They started going for the digital money. Okay, apps like Paytm, RuPay, PhonePe, they all came into use, and now we have many more added to it. Real estate prices declined. People did not have money in their hands. Demonetization was like a huge break onto the economy, huge shock to the economy. Okay, so whatever real estates, whatever projects, whatever buildings they were being built, or whatever prices they had initially, they drastically went down after the demonetization. Clear? And the last one, tax collection. There was a rise in the tax collection. Why? Because all those black money came out, maximum it came out, and people had to pay penalties, people had to pay taxes in order to get their money converted into white. Because if they did not get converted it into white, those money would be a total waste. It was nothing more than a piece of paper, isn't it? Okay, so that was all about the impact of demonetization. In your syllabus prescribed by CBSE, you have only meaning and features, but yet I found this topic somewhere in a book, so I took this and I pasted it here. Now coming on to the next topic, that is about the New Economic Policy 1991. Now, as we are talking about the New Economic Policy 1991, so let's go back to the year of 1991. In 1991, or 2-3 years previous to that, what happened? The economy of India was falling drastically. Okay, you can say the internal debt of India, the loans that they take, they rose about 50% of GDP with lots of interest payment. Okay, the GNP fell to 1.4%. There was a fall in the agricultural production. Okay, and inflation rates were also very high. Clear? So there was overall confusion, chaos. The economy was totally moving down, totally drastically going down. Okay. So in order to improve the situations, what did the government decide? The government decided that it will implement a new policy. What is that new policy called? The policy was named as New Economic Policy. And when did it announce it? In the month of July 1991. Why? For taking out the country of the economic difficulty and speeding up the development of the country. Clear? Understood why was new economic policy formed? The new economic policy was formed for taking out the country out of its difficult situation and speeding up the development of economy. Clear? Now the main features are there. I'll just read it out for you. Only 6 industries were kept under licensing scheme. Licensing schemes means there were various industries that time which in order to operate had to take license or permission from the government. But in the new economic policy, what it was said that they could operate without taking the license. But only 6 industries were kept under this licensing scheme. That means only 6 types of industries had to take license from the government in order to operate, and rest everyone, they were given the permission of operating without the licensing scheme. Okay. The role of public sector was only limited to 4 industries. So there were only 4 types of industries in which public sector was allowed to operate. Okay. Disinvestment was carried out in many public enterprises. Now what is disinvestment? The conversion of public sector to private sector, it is called as disinvestment. In simple words, if you try to understand. Okay. So in many public sector enterprises, they were in the process to get converted into private sector enterprises, right? Next one, foreign capital investment policy was liberalized, and in many sectors 100% of direct foreign investment was allowed. Foreign capital investment, that means people from another country, they could invest in our country. Earlier there were many rules and regulations to be followed, but now it was liberalized. Liberalized means given relaxations, given permissions. Okay. And in many sectors, what happened? 100% of FDI was allowed. 100% of FDI means, suppose there is a particular sector, textile sector or textile industry. If it has 100% FDI, means total money can be invested by a foreign company in that particular sector. That is called as FDI. What is FDI? FDI means foreign direct investment. People from another country can invest their money into India. That is foreign direct investment. And how much it was allowed? Up to 100%. Clear? That means they could even purchase that company. Clear to you? Earlier it was 40% or 60%. That means for maximum 40% foreign money could be there, rest 60% had to be of some Indian company. But now it is 100% FDI allowed. Good. Next one, automatic permission was given for signing the technology agreements with foreign companies. So if we had to sign any foreign deals with any foreign companies relating to any technological agreements, we could do so. And lastly, the Foreign Investment Promotion Board, that is FIPB, was set up to promote and bring foreign investment in India. So this organization or this body was set up. Why? To bring foreign investment into India. Clear? So what are these actually? And one more is there. Various benefits were offered to the small scale industries. Clear? So what are actually these? These are the main features of NEP, that is the New Economic Policy of 1991. Now how could these features be achieved? So many features are there. These features were achieved through LPG. Now what is LPG? I earlier said it is liberalization, privatization and globalization. Now let's go into the meaning so that it becomes more clearer to you. So the first one in front of you is the liberalization. Now what is liberalization? In simple words, if we say, then liberalization is removing all unnecessary controls, removing all the restrictions. From whom? From the Indian businesses and industry. Clear to you? Now, also remember one thing, there are two sectors, basically the private and the public one. Joint is also there, but for the time being we are talking only about the public and private. So earlier what happened, only public sector, they were given some specific charges or specific powers, if you say, that they only could operate in some specific areas. Private sector could not go over there and operate. Clear? It was this tendency. But after liberalization, what happened? Even the private sector were allowed to operate in those areas which were earlier reserved only for the public sector. Clear to you? See, I read. That is, relaxing the rules and regulations which restrict the growth of private sector. That means those rules and those regulations which stopped or which restricted the growth of private sector, that was removed. And also what? And the private sector was allowed to take part in the economic activities that were earlier reserved for the government sector. Government sector means public sector. Clear? Liberalization. Now how did this happen? Abolishing licensing. We told na above in the discussion of the features, while we were discussing, I told you abolishing licensing means earlier few companies, they had to take permission, they had to take license while operating, but by liberalization they all became open for use. Freedom in deciding the scale of operations. Earlier there was a restriction in this also, that whether you want to establish a large scale business or a small scale business, this power was also not given to the businessmen or the owners to decide, but now they could decide on their own. Freedom was given. Clear? Point number 3, removal of restrictions on movement of goods and services. Now freely goods can be moved from one place to another without any restrictions. Next, freedom in fixing prices. Earlier there was a restriction that these sectors, they could not fix the price of their goods on their own. If they say 50 rupees, the government would say, why 50? Sell it in 30. Okay, so this fixing of prices was also a problem. But after liberalization, these sectors could freely fix their prices. Next, reduction in tax rates and unnecessary controls. The tax rate was reduced, the tax interest was reduced, and control was also reduced. Simplifying procedures for export and import. The formalities, the procedures, the rules and regulations required for export and import, they were made much simpler than before. And last one, making easy to attract the foreign capital. Okay, foreign direct investment was allowed, foreign investment policies were framed. Okay, so that helped in bringing foreign money into India, foreign capital into India. Clear about liberalization? I repeat, liberalization means something which is free, liberal. So over here, unnecessary rules and regulations are removed, unnecessary controls are removed, and the private sector is allowed to operate in those sectors where earlier only public sector used to operate. Clear? Next one, privatization. What is privatization? Remember disinvestment I discussed, this one, disinvestment. This is actually what is called as privatization. See, it refers to the reduction of role of public sector by transferring ownership and control from the public to the private. Disinvestment. Okay, so what is privatization? We are reducing the role of public sector in the economy and we are giving more ownership, more control to the private sector. Simple? Okay. Now see, to achieve privatization in India, the government redefined the role of public sector. Okay, and it adopted the policy of planned disinvestment. So what did it do? To achieve privatization, what did the government do? The government planned the disinvestment of public sector, that the role of public sector would be reduced. Okay, and more power, more control would be given to the private sector. It referred the loss making and sick units to the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. So now a question may arise in your mind that, ma'am, why was this done to the private sector? Why it was given more power and public sector all the power and the management it was taken? It was taken why? Because the public sector could no longer achieve profit, could no longer earn profit in the sectors or in the areas which it was operating. Clear? It was continuously making losses, right? So to save the economy, we needed such sectors, we needed such economy which actually could make profits, and that was actually seen by the private sector. The private sector, if they were allowed to work onto those industries, they could perform much better. See, take for example about BSNL, the phone company that we use. So BSNL is what? It's a part of government. The government operates that. So BSNL, just think now, BSNL, how bad it is doing. It is not able to make profits. Whereas see, the same telecommunication in the private sector, we have so many private companies, Vodafone, Airtel, Jio. Aren't they doing good if we compare it to the public sector? Okay, similarly, this is just one example through which I explained you. Similarly, that time this thing only happened. The public sector was not able to make enough profits, and that is why the government had to transfer the ownership to the private sector, to the private companies, so that private enterprises, private individuals come to these areas and make these areas grow. Clear? And in case there are any loss making sectors or sick units means the units which are no more profit making ones. Okay, so those units were sent to the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. This board actually looked onto those units, looked onto those industries. They tried to recover those industries if they could, well and fine, but even if with the help of BIFR those industries were not able to generate profits, they were shut down. Clear? They were closed. Okay, that is all about privatization. So what did we learn in privatization? The transfer of public sector to the private sector. Okay, another word for that is disinvestment, and we learned about a new concept here, that is BIFR. Okay, and the last topic for today, that is about the globalization. What is globalization? It is mixing up, bringing together what? Economy of a particular country with the economies of other country. Okay, why? For a freer flow of trade, capital, persons and technology across borders. It leads to the emergence of cohesive global economy. Till 1991, the government of India followed a policy of strictly regulating imports in value and volume terms. Earlier, till 1991, it was very strict, okay? With licensing of imports, there was no compromisation. There was tariff restrictions, means the prices were restricted. right? And quantitative restrictions, that means the amount that we could export, or the amount which we could export, that quantity was also restricted, right? But after globalizations, things changed. How? The globalization involved increased interaction and interdependence among various nations of the global economy. Simple. Globalization is very simple. What? It is bringing the different economies of the world together. Why? So that the trade happens freely, the transfer of capital happens freely, transfer of persons, transfer of technology happens freely, right? So that is all for today. We'll meet you in the next video. Thank you.